So I've been asked, what is the specific process that we go through to enable an author's book to be converted and created into an online personalized learning program, a program that can actually be sold, commercially. So we actually have a very specific process for doing this, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay. So of course, when we have our objective, we are usually in a rush to get there, but the reality is, of course, there are a few steps to actually achieving that. So we actually have a formula for this. We call this the GROW formula, and I'll go through that in a bit of detail in a moment. But just to outline it, we start off with the goal. What is the actual objectives? Then we have a review of the content, and we make a proposal based on that content. Then we actually create and assemble those objects, the learning objects, and then we actually present that work to you in the form of prototypes and iterations. So that is the kind of process overall. So let's take a little bit more detailed look at each of these steps. So we start off with the goal. So with kind of instructional design, it's a case of reverse engineering really what we want to achieve. So it's all about identifying, first of all, what is the primary and then the secondary objectives. And there's usually a range of objectives actually, but it's very important we get clear on what is the primary one. The whole course should be designed with that specific intention in mind. So if we're not clear if we are using this course to try and get famous, to use it for marketing, use it for income, use it to stand out in our industry, or a number of other things, then we are unable to optimize the course. If we're clear about which one of those or something else is the primary objective, then we can actually do a very, very good job of achieving that, right? So start off with the objective. Then we work back from that objective and conclude what is the evidence that we have achieved that. So if, for example, and I'm just using a kind of random simplified example here, if the objective of this course was that the student could fix their tap, then an evidence point might be that they've sent a video or a photograph or written in confirming that they will have in fact fixed their tap, right? That might be the evidence point. Then we would go a step back from that, so it's all about reverse engineering. In instructional design, we actually call this backwards design, which is a really terrible phrase, but there you go. And then we look at, okay, what is the learning material, actually, what is the learning objectives we need to deliver to achieve that, right? So in the case of fixing a tap, there's probably a number of different things: identifying the tap, type of tap, identifying where the leak is, stopping the leak, removing the part, buying the right part to replace it with, assembling the part, reconnecting the water, testing, tightening, etc. So there might be a number of different learning objectives or learning lessons, tasks, whatever you want to call it, right? Then we go back once we understand that, and of course the whole point of those learning objectives is to achieve that evidence point, right? Go back a step from that, then it's about what is the content we're going to create or assemble or select to deliver those learning objectives. Some of that you've probably already got, some of that may need to be created. So in the case of a book, sometimes it's a case of creating talking head videos, at least for elements of that book. Sometimes it's delivering downloadable PDFs or an online quiz or an online test, something of that nature for the course, right? So that's the goal. So in process, once we have identified what we want to do, it's about review. So we receive that content from you. We will actually go through that content. In the case of a book, we read that book. We actually read it twice. We go through that book once and make a series of notes to ourselves, and then we have to go through it again, because only once you've seen the whole we can go back into the detail and refine our own comments. So during that we'll be able to make a proposal about what should be done as a video, what would make a great kind of quiz, what would make great engagement points or other types of interactions. Okay, and then we present that to you in the form of a kind of content proposal. Once that's been agreed, then it's just basically about creating those objects, right? Some of those, as I say, will already be available. Some of them will need to be created. You then deliver that content to us. We assemble those objects inside the course to create the course. We add our layer of engagement, and actually don't think of it as a layer. The engagement points are a really important, integral part of the course. What we found actually is that the better the engagement and the better the user experience is for the student, for the user, the more you can actually charge for the course. It's an absolute direct correlation. So one of the examples I might give, that if the objective is to drive from here to the local supermarket, you can do that in a Ford Focus. It's going to get you there fine. You can also do it in a Lamborghini Diablo, right? That's also going to get you there fine, but the experience is going to be very, very different, and that's why the price point of those two vehicles is very, very different. So the price point you can charge for your course is very dependent on the level of sophistication of the engagement points you have in your course. And that makes sense actually, because the more complex those engagement points are to create, the harder it is to create, and so there's a direct benefit of going through that difficulty. Okay, and obviously you can explain that in more detail. And then lastly, during this phase, we add the graphics. So that might be a lot of video thumbnails, which is actually an important part. Will be tile images. Tiles are basically, think of those as the lessons, the actual lesson objects inside your course. They'll each need a kind of a piece of graphics to represent them. There'll be other interactions, might be downloads, and you're probably going to need graphics for each of those, and we'll create all those graphics for the course. And then the last phase is actually the work phase. So we'll actually then deliver that course completed in a prototype form to you, so you can actually kind of get in there yourselves and actually interact and explore it. Your course will have no doubt some changes, come back to us. We'll complete those revisions, send them back to you for a last round of tweaks and small changes. And that last step is where we would add the dependencies. So dependencies are where we limit what the student can do. So typically, though it doesn't have to be this case, we would typically limit the students so that they, for example, they have to complete lesson 1 before they can move on to lesson 2. So dependencies is one of the last things that we actually add to the course, because it does mean it's more difficult for us to move around the course ourselves and review it and make changes. Okay, so it's why it's the last thing we do. So once we've done all that, it's delivered to you, and it's last review for yourself before you sign that off, and the course is complete. And then it's time to actually go live and actually put that in front of your prospects and your customers to actually sell the course and get them on board. So that's how we go through. That's our structure for converting your course into a sellable commercial product. So I hope that was some value to you. If you have any questions about this process, then of course get in contact with us, and we can give you a lot more details about our B2C course, and we can get your book turned into a commercial product which you can sell around the world. You know, even when you got your feet up, or even if you go on holiday, or even heaven forbid you actually have a sickness day, and you can actually get paid for delivering your insights and your wisdom and your knowledge, even if you are not in the room. Okay, so that's it from me. Over and out. I hope to chat to you again very soon. Bye for now.